everybody, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and it's Sunday, so it's time for the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. And before I get started, I just wanted to say a quick shout out to Sean for getting me the most awesome patches for my jumpsuit. What do you guys think? I thought Cinema Club would appreciate those. I've been kind of hemming and hawing, what patch do you put on the boiler suit? And then I realized you got to go with the classic alien, right? Oh, thank you, Sean. I love these patches. They're awesome. All right. At the beginning of the week, we decided to go way back in time with a classic Marx Brothers movie, At the Circus. Have you guys seen this one? 1939, starring 3 out of the 5 Marx Brothers, the 3 who are the most famous. That is Groucho, Chico. I always thought it was Chico, but apparently it's Chico, and Harpo. There's this very convoluted plot where they basically are trying to help save a circus from bankruptcy, but a bunch of other convoluted things happen along the way, and they get to perform. We get a great piano piece from Chico. We get a great harp piece from Harpo, and of course, Groucho sings his signature song, Lydia the Tattooed Lady, which is just one of my absolute favorites. Turns out it was one of Jim Henson's favorite songs also. I didn't know that. And they had Kevin Clash, the guy who is the puppeteer for Elmo, sing it in the voice of Elmo at Jim Henson's funeral. So that's weird, but, you know, a bizarre connection that I found out about while I was doing the research for this vlog. So the Marx Brothers, are you guys fans? Have you watched any Marx Brothers movies? I know they're kind of old, but they are still some of the funniest movies that you will ever see. I can't get enough of them. I have loved them ever since I was a little kid. I revisit Marx Brothers movies probably every 10 years or so, and they never get old. They're always funny. You know, some of the material's a little dated, obviously. A lot of time has gone by since these movies have come out, but they're still amazing, and they are still some of the funniest things, I think, that have ever been shot on film. So At the Circus, kind of a controversial one apparently with responses, critical response at the time. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people hated it and thought it was pretty weak. I thought it was hilarious. We watched it with James. Unfortunately, Henry wasn't able to watch with us the other night. He loved it. He immediately was like, show me more Marx Brothers movies. And I was like, oh boy, do I have more for you. So if you want to give something like that a try, so tons of great Marx Brothers movies out there. We're probably going to do Duck Soup next, but we might do Night at the Opera. Like I said, there's so many good ones. So Marx Brothers, classic comedy. Check that out if you like that sort of thing. Let's see, we missed a few nights of watching movies because we've gotten all involved in Dark. It's very good. If you like weirdness. I'm not going to fully review it yet, but we've been watching and it's pretty great. Recommended watch in the original German with the subtitles for that one. But anyhow, we lost a couple nights to that. But then on Wednesday, it was Western Wednesday, of course, and we have finally gotten to spaghetti westerns. We watched A Fistful of Dollars from 1964, of course, directed by Sergio Leone, and starring Clint Eastwood in his first major film role, like the role that made him a movie star. He had already been on TV, on Rawhide, and in a couple of other smaller roles, but this was it. This was the one. The man with no name in A Fistful of Dollars was pretty much what cemented him as a movie star. He doesn't talk a lot in the movie. It's a very kind of stony-faced role. It's great. He comes into town, and there's like 2 warring factions of kind of semi-criminal people, and he realizes pretty quickly that he can pit them against each other and come out on top. Don't want to say more than that in terms of plot spoilers. It is an unofficial remake of Kurosawa's Yojimbo, which I didn't realize until I did the research for this. Apparently, Leone got sued by Toho because of this kind of rip-off thing. I mean, it's, you know, it's an homage, right? But he didn't have permission, so apparently he got sued. But anyhow, you know, similar story, right, to Yojimbo, where you have Toshiro Mifune comes into town, sees the 2 clans warring against each other, and decides, okay, here's how I can benefit here in this kind of chaotic situation. But anyhow, back to Fistful of Dollars. It's incredible. Have you guys seen this movie? Have you watched any of the spaghetti westerns? Sergio Leone is... he's this amazing visionary director. He took a lot of inspiration from Kurosawa, a lot of inspiration from John Ford and his kind of epic sweeping landscapes in his Westerns. But then Leone puts his own mark on it with tons of dramatic close-ups, unexpected angles sometimes. It's almost like every shot is an amazing photograph. I don't know how much you guys pay attention to cinematography in movies, but I'm a photographer, so I pay a lot of attention to it. And his movies are, it's like watching a poem, if that makes sense. They're just so beautiful, and every shot is just so perfectly composed and just so masterful. You could practically watch it with the sound off and just take in the visual of the movie and just appreciate it that way. I wouldn't recommend it because, then you're not getting the whole movie experience, but you could. Like, that's how good it is. So, unbelievable, incredible. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to sound kind of like an idiot just blathering on if I let myself continue. I'm very excited to continue the Dollars trilogy this week with a few dollars more. And then, of course, next week we get to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then the week after that, we're going to do Once Upon a Time in the West, which is actually my favorite of his movies. So, Sergio Leone Spaghetti Westerns, catch up with us on Western Wednesday. The next night, kind of speaking of Western Wednesday, but kind of not, I decided that I wanted to watch Assault on Precinct 13 from 1976, John Carpenter. It's his second movie after Dark Star was the first one. And this is his unofficial remake of Rio Bravo. So he even gave himself the fake editing credit name John T. Chance, which is the name of John Wayne's character in Rio Bravo. So you have kind of the storyline of Rio Bravo, but set in a 1970s urban police station instead of the Wild West. The movie opens with reports that a cache of weapons has fallen into the hands of the notorious gang Street Thunder, which is just the stupidest name for a street gang. I love it when movies come up with dumb names for street gangs. But the kids misheard it and they thought the reporter said Tweed Thunder. So there's been a rolling joke through our house for the last several days about what the gang Tweed Thunder would be like. And of course, every time the gang members showed up in the movie, the kids were like, "Oh, Tweed Thunder." And I was like, "Shh, let me watch my movie." But anyhow, it's a great John Carpenter action thriller movie. Soundtrack or score, I guess, by John Carpenter as well, his classic synth style. It's incredible. It's full of drama. It's full of action. It's full of a lot of great suspenseful parts, really great performances from all the actors. There's a couple places where the editing feels a little bit off. But you're looking at a masterful director's early work, right? So I always cut people a little bit of slack when I'm watching their first couple of movies. They haven't quite figured everything out yet. And if you look at it in the context of being Carpenter's second film, it's incredible. Holds up really well. It was a little weird to watch now in this sort of like end-all police moment that America is having because obviously you're on the side of the police in this story where the street gang is coming to murder the police. But anyhow, it's a great film. Like I said, if you're a John Carpenter fan, definitely check it out. If you like 70s gritty action movies about street gangs, anything like that, I think you'll definitely enjoy Assault on Precinct 13. I have not seen the remake. As you guys know, I don't like remakes. So I don't know if you guys have. Let me know if you think it's worth watching. I will go so far as to watch a remake if someone recommends it to me. But usually I just go, no, I'll stay away from that one. So let me know if you guys, any of you saw it, what you thought of it, or, if you want to see the original from 1976. It was fantastic. The next night after that, speaking of gangs, we decided to show the kids CB4, of course, from 1993, starring Chris Rock, Charlie Murphy, Chris Elliott, Phil Hartman, R.I.P. Phil Hartman. It's sad every time I think about it. The classic sort of, I guess the easiest way to describe this film is NWA meets Spinal Tap. This movie's incredible. It held up incredibly well. It is so funny. Chris Rock is so funny, and Charlie Murphy is so funny in their respective roles in this movie. I mean, everyone's great, but the two of them are so awesome. It's so funny. You almost don't need to have the knowledge of what they're parodying in the film. Our kids actually don't have a ton of exposure to that stuff. We actually showed them the Straight Outta Compton video after the movie because we were like, okay, hang on. This is what they're making fun of. But they still thought it was completely hilarious. They totally loved it. It's got a great story arc. The way the narrative unfolds is really fun. It's a classic. I don't know what else to say about it. I love this film. It holds up really well. If you've never seen CB4, definitely give it a watch. If you are at all a fan of the gangster rap genre, NWA or any of those associated acts, Chris Rock or any of his associated acts, you will love this movie. Period. So that's basically it. After we watched CB4, and I had to point out to the kids again who the actual celebrities were in the movie when they were doing the clips at the beginning with like Ice-T and Ice Cube and whoever. Then we watched Straight Outta Compton, and I pointed out Ice Cube again. And then last night when we were picking movies, Jimmy was scrolling through our list, and he stopped on Anaconda and was like, "What's this about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's got Ice Cube in it." And they were like, "Let's watch it." So we did. Anaconda. This movie is, well, I'm not going to say it's great because it's not a great movie. But you know what it is? It's a great creature feature. I think in the grand tradition of creature features, you're never going in expecting a great film when you go to watch a creature feature. You're looking for a creature feature. And in that tradition, Anaconda is great. Almost all of it held up really well, except the computer animation. It was so cheesy. The kids were like cowering in their seats whenever they showed the snake like coiling up around somebody. It just looked awful. And they were like covering their eyes like, "Oh, this computer animation is so bad." Henry at one point turns around and he's like, "The practical snake puppet they have is so good, and the computer animation is so bad. Why did they do it?" And I was like, "Because they could." Like, I don't know. I agree with you, buddy. Get the computer animation out of there. It still holds up really well. We were talking about it this morning and saying how it's kind of like an update to Creature from the Black Lagoon. It takes place in the same general part of the world, and the story kind of follows similar structure in some ways. But, of course, our heroes are out here trying to make a documentary, and meanwhile, there's some giant snakes. Ice Cube and Jon Voight steal the show. They are both incredible in their roles, Jon Voight particularly so, just from the second he shows up. It takes about 5 minutes to get into his kind of bad accent, but once you do, it's perfect, and he's incredible. The snake itself is a great character. Again, not the computer part of the snake, but the practical snake that they made. And it's just a fun, dumb creature feature horror thriller adventure movie. The kids loved it. Sean and I loved watching it again. Fans who have been following us for a long ass time will remember we did a one-off zine called Orange about, I want to say like 15, 17 years ago, where we actually did a project where we watched all of Ice Cube's movies that had been released up to that point. I think the last one was either Ghosts of Mars or Barbershop. I can't remember. But we actually went through and watched all of them in order. And reviewed every single one for this zine, Orange, that we did. So we haven't seen Anaconda since we watched it for review for that zine. But it was really fun to watch it again, and the kids really loved Ice Cube in the movie. And so I was like, well, surprise, there's a bunch of other great movies that he's been in. So who knows? Maybe we're going to have a mini Ice Cube marathon this week. Love to show the kids Boys in the Hood, Friday, Barbershop, Ghost of Mars. Three Kings is pretty good. Luckily, we did our project kind of before he turned into like family comedies, like Are We There Yet? And that stuff. So I have no idea about that stuff. But the earlier Ice Cube movies, hell yeah. It was actually going to be an ongoing project called Rappers Are Actors. But after we watched all of Ice Cube's movies, we tried to watch all of Ice-T's movies. And he has been in some terrible movies. It's like his agent was like way not selective about what movies he should be in. And so we got partway through Ice-T's catalog, and then we were just like, no, we can't watch the rest of these movies. There's just, there's a lot of bad ones in there. So anyhow, that's what we watched this week for Cinema Club. What did you guys watch this week? You know, I'm always curious to find out. And what do you have planned for next week? Is it going to be an Ice Cube mini movie marathon? Will you join us on Wednesday for a few dollars more? What do you guys have coming up? I'm always curious to find out. All right, I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. Until then, everybody stay safe, take care, and thanks for watching.